Hi.
I'm just going to talk during every time you try to address the camera.
Hi. Welcome to my porch. And tonight we're having mojitos. Oh, I have some geranium in my mojito, actually.
Just
It's
stir it
pretty.
in.
Stir it in. I'm stirring it in. Hi. We're going to do our 6 feet apart interview. And tonight our guest is Marcus Truschinski. My first question to you, Marcus, thank you for being here, by the way.
Good. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. First memory of APT, your origin story with APT.
Gosh.
Very first.
My very first memory of APT. I've come to APT a couple of times when I was a young man, when I was in junior high and high school.
Wow.
And so this has become really, really embarrassing for all the people who have been here since before I was here.
How old they are?
Because a little bit. Because I tell them, I'm like, oh my God, I loved that play so much. And I saw it when I was 14, and they're like, oh no. Oh no. But one of the most memorable, I think probably just because of this last year, was I saw the Scottish play and I remember we all sat in the back row. The whole football team was there because my school went. And we were all wearing our football jerseys in the back row.
That night or something?
I think we did, yeah. And it was Smoots playing McBee.
Yep.
And now I've worked with Smoots, so many times, and
that was a long time ago.
It was, yeah. That was my junior year in high school. That was the one that really kind of, solidified my idea of theater. I had done theater, but I didn't think that I was going to do it for a living.
Right.
And when we came out that day to see that play, and the kind of elements, and I noticed, like everybody else on the, not everybody, but people were on the football team in the back row, and it was a very hot day, and I just was like this, because I was really mesmerized by the possibilities that, and then getting to play that part, that really made my...
Full circle.
Yeah, really, it really did. Yeah, pretty amazing.
That's amazing. I remember that production. I remember the witches in that production. Do you?
Yeah, Susan Shunk.
Susan Shunk.
Right. Oh man. And Sarah
Day was one of the
witches too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember who the.
Was it Kirst Klopatic? No.
No. I was in that production too.
You were in that one too.
Yeah.
What were you in?
That was Kate Buckley. I was the incredible role of Menteith.
Yes, I remember.
One of the
Obviously,
Thanes.
I remembered that you were in that show. One of the Thanes.
One of the Thanes. I was something else.
You guys were all in. Were you in a kilt? I remember Jimmy being in a kilt.
Yeah, that was Jimmy and Tracy. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Tracy, who you're married to.
Yeah, who I'm married to. Yep.
How many years?
14.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were like 18 when you married her or something.
Yes. I thought you started with 8.
8, and I jumped.
8
that was
a
creepy.
little young.
Yeah, it's creepy.
And then...
Yeah, exactly. So when did you know you wanted to be at APT? Like you wanted to stay here and work here?
Well, the cool thing was I had a mentor. I went to Whitewater, which is a Wisconsin school, and a good friend of mine, Rick, and I both ended up getting the apprenticeship.
Right.
And it was our mentor's goal for us to work at APT.
Jim
Butchart. As an intern, watching these incredible actors and just work, I think that was the biggest thing for me, wanting to be a part of the company, really, or working here for the foreseeable future, is that they actually worked on the craft of acting. It wasn't what this job is going to get me in the future. It was the thing itself. It was working here right now, in the moment on this. This is the most important thing.
Right.
this play itself, it doesn't matter what the future of it is. It's just the right now of it. And that was super exciting to me because, I don't know, when I was a kid, I felt like I wanted to be in movies, you know, or
a rock star.
Or in a band,
Yeah.
yes. Yes, one of those two.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but you
all the things that make tons of money. You know, mostly. Freelance musician.
Yeah, there you go. Lead singer.
I'd still want to do that.
I know.
I'm trying not to, I'm not giving up on that dream.
That's the hair.
Right.
Well, no.
That's the rock and roll hair. Yeah.
And so you were here and you were like, I'd like to stay here.
Yeah. I'd like to stay here because it's about the work itself. It's not about what the work is going to get you.
It's interesting because I think that's not specific. That's specific to those of you that stay. I mean,
really?
Yeah, I think that's from my perspective, is a common denominator amongst the people who gather and return, and then certainly amongst the people we asked to join the core company. It's defining that kind of work ethic or that kind of idea about the work itself. Yeah. Which I think most actors would think that they're doing, but I don't know why it's heightened here in some respect. Yeah, there's that. I think that's become part of what APT is too. It's the work is good because people are continually working on it. Mm-hmm. They never kind of sit back on their laurels. Yeah. They're always trying to push themselves to be better. Right. And when you're surrounded by great people. Yeah. Yeah. There's a certain thing that I love about working here, and that it's like everybody has such a curiosity about life, about work, about constantly learning. Mm-hmm. That is really exciting to me. So John Lang's called working here for the first time. And John is a colleague of ours and a friend, and he started working here when he was very young. And I remember the second time I asked him to come back and work with us, he said, it's like walking through fire to work there. I got to think about it. And I was surprised that he was going to have to think about it, but he didn't thought about it for a hot minute. But he was just like, and when he said that, though, it's like walking through fire. I remember being like, what does that mean exactly? What do you think it meant? I think it's the intensity of everybody wanting to make this the absolute best production of any play that we're doing. I mean, the chances of it being the best when you're doing Shakespeare is pretty slim. But right, yeah. Right. I mean, the numbers, the average alone, there's no chance. There's no chance. Right. But maybe in the top 5%. But the aspiration, 10%. I think that is it, though. Everybody is really, really intense about the work, and really, really try hard. So I feel like if you're coming into somebody who's always into a company that's always really, really trying to make the best possible art that we can make day to day, minute to minute, I'm sure that can seem really, really intense, particularly if you're not doing it all the time. But it's like pushing each other in a kind way, hopefully. Right. But the wood chipping. But it can get really intense. It can get really intense because the conversations don't end ever. Yeah, it's interesting. It's always going. Always going. I remember the work's always happening. My son's friends were like, your parents were talking about a play, and I thought they were talking about like an accident that happened on the highway, because they were talking about it so like it was life and death. They were talking, and we figured out it was like the performance that night. Right. Of Comedy of Errors. Or right. Or comedy. Or comedy. A light-hearted comedy. Merry Wives of Windsor. Too Many Husbands. Exactly. Oh, right. Yes, there's that. Yes. But there's an intensity around this place. But I view it with some kind of importance that we're spending our lives doing this, so therefore it has to be important, right? That's right. And we're doing it here. Art, that's what I think. I think good art is like
life and death. And I feel like if you're trying so hard, I mean, and sometimes that can get in the way of what actually is, and then you're like, no, let's kind of, we're all a little intense right now, and let's just go back to
this
right,
intense, yeah.
let's go back to acting 101, and then sometimes you have your biggest discoveries,
Right.
because you're relaxing into that.
But it does mean that the work has been done to some degree, right? I mean, I think part of the thing about APT and John's comment was about the kind of prep you all do coming into a room. Like, I always say there's a certain amount of like, Jerry Nugent, if you happen to watch this, I love you and you're brilliant. The best actor, one of the best actors I've ever met. But there was something about, hi,
hey,
how
you
you
doing?
doing? There's something about the actors act. So acting like you have your shit together, or your prep done when you don't, is also something that a lot of actors can kind of buy into. Like, if I get away with it, pretending like I had my stuff done, and then I'm really good, what does that mean?
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that everybody's a working artist and they're trying to keep their life going, and they have so many jobs, and especially directors.
Yeah.
And when John's like prepping, like, you have to be prepped to walk into this room with these actors, because they are all prepped.
Yeah.
They've either done the play 3 other times, or they directed it, or and here you are. And John was really young at the time when he first started here, so he's like, whoa. But that new voice, that new idea in the room is really exciting. Like, his new point of view on something was always
that's
exciting.
funny. It's funny that you say that, because now we kind of go into the room with John in the same way.
Right.
Like, oh my God, this is going to be intense because it's John.
Because he's prepped.
Because he's going to be really, really prepped. He's going to have major ideas about the play, and
he's going to demand.
And his work ethic is just as hard as ours, if not above. And so we got to have our game face on when we're working with John. So.
And that's interesting, because we talk about people that say there is APT people. So when Dara Kennan called me about him as an example, said this is an APT person. You got to meet John.
Yeah.
And what do you think that means?
Work ethic.
Yeah, work ethic. Straight up work ethic, right?
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing.
Because, I feel like you can be, I don't know, an APT person. You can be an APT person if you have extremely hard work ethic and you don't succeed, even if you don't succeed in something. I don't even know what that means, really, succeeding in this work. But if you know that you put the work in, it's accomplished something.
Right. Right.
And so, in that way, we're all failing to learn more, and we've had the opportunity to fail.
Right.
But we didn't fail because we didn't put the work in.
Right.
Work in.
Right. So there's this, like, I think the very geography, and that means the weather and the location and along with the repertory, work is absolutely just part of the equation, because those two things are a lot of work.
Yeah.
So it's you can't escape it. So it's only going to call people who are actually interested in that kind of.
Yeah.
Which isn't the only way to work. Let's be honest, because there's a lot more fun ways to work.
But honestly, to me, that is fun.
Right.
That
You're
kind
masochist.
of hard.
I call you all masochists on some level.
But it is fun. The intensity of that, of trying to figure out the tiniest little. It's like I don't know, like it's like pointillist painting. If you're making these tiny dots, knowing that it's going to be this other thing, every single one of those dots is important. And so that is fun to me. The work is fun.
Thank God that's true. What's been your proudest moment? Your proudest. What are you most proud of here at APT in your experience?
See, now you're stumping me, because I have a hard time doing that. I have a hard time thinking about those kinds of things.
You need to, though. You're on camera.
Right. I think maybe one of the proudest, because I do beat myself up about a lot of things.
You're like the fourth person who said that sitting in that chair.
Yeah, and and I have a hard time thinking about the positives. But this last year, working with Jimmy and Melissa in McBee, Melissa said something to me that it struck me in it really completely changed the way I think about things. And it was, we were taking notes, and I oftentimes don't write down notes. I try to remember them. And for this process, I started writing notes down. And Jimmy bought me a notebook to write. This is terrible. But Melissa, we were writing notes down, and I was writing down all of the things that I could do better.
But you weren't writing down the good notes.
And I was not writing down any of the good notes because
that.
Because for some reason it was like, I don't know. It was like, okay, great. Now that's not something I need to worry about or think about. And she literally said to me, Marcus, you have to write down the positive note. And so I started doing that, and I'm going to continue to do that. So that's a thing I'm really
there really
proud
is
of in that moment. Yeah.
I think a really important part, as I've been in this a long time, and I have the same instinct, which is how we could do better. I messed this up, but there is something essential for longevity in celebrating the wins. Like there is an absolute necessity to say, but we're also worried we're going to lie to ourselves because we watch this business where everyone's saying all the great things they're doing, and you're like, oh, I didn't think that was so great. So then you're like, I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
I don't want to be that person. So I'm going to shy as far away from that as I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going to jinx something or start to believe your own press. That's the thing that I always think about.
Yeah.
Don't buy your own press. Like, don't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That being. I feel like I was always taught to kind of be humble.
Yeah, humility is a big part, right?
Yeah, but I'm learning that there's a difference between being false humble and humble for show, as opposed to,
Dara Kennan said that.
Yeah.
Dara Kennan said to an actor you know well. At some point I just don't believe it. So then I'm just thinking it's an act. And then humility doesn't work anymore. If it's like literally, you can't deny the fact that you've been successful. Then it looks like something else.
Yeah.
So it's a hard line. I totally appreciate the fight with that though.
Well, and that's the thing in you saying that made me, I'm proud of the fact that I have a body of work now, and that I have a career, and that I've been able to make mistakes and fail in ways so I know that I can succeed in a way. I know how to feel an audience, or I know audiences better now, and it doesn't make me less nervous. Do you know? It's funny.
That's good though.
That's not changed, at all. But so I'm proud of having a career in the theater, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you wish you could do over?
Lots and lots of things. There are some roles I'd like to do over.
What?
Oh God. Well, there's a funny thing. It's like as soon as a show ends, you think of, gosh, now I could have done this, or I could have done this, or I could have done that. So essentially all of them.
Sure.
I'd like to do, Orsino.
Yeah.
Again, I did, Orsino, and I felt like I didn't quite get him. Yeah.
He's hard.
He's a tough character.
I did tell Gavin he was the best Orsino that I've seen, and I totally said it to the camera. Yeah. So my husband was an Orsino, so I feel pretty.
Yeah.
But he was a great Orsino. And when you see someone else in your world nail some part of something, that you're like, oh.
I said the same thing to him. We shared a dressing room.
Yeah.
This year, and I said the same thing to him. I was like, gosh, you got so much more out of it in a completely different way than what I did.
That's what's so beautiful about those plays.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, that's another part of wanting to, do something again too is I have been here now for 3 As You Like It's, right?
Oh my God!
No,
Already?
really for 2. I guess it's just 2 As You Like It's, and 3 Much Ado's. So, is that right?
Well, name them. Who was in the Much Ado's that you
Right.
saw, or
I was in 2 of them. I was Claudio and I was Baraccio. So just 2. Just 2. And 2 As You Like It's. And this is the third 12th night. That just happened this last year, which I ended up going into.
Yes.
Which I didn't think I'd be a part of. But I ended up going on. So yeah, you get to see people that you really, really admire, and in some cases grew up watching, do the parts. And then it comes to you doing it, and it's a little bit, gosh, what can I take from that, but also really make it my own and make it completely different. And then sometimes afterwards you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. So I feel like I do that with every role.
Of course you do. I expect nothing less from you, Marcus, but torture. Some torture involved.
Some torture, yeah.
Yes. How has APT changed you? And I don't mean as an actor. Where you actively understand yourself to be different because of the world.
I grew up here. When I first came here, I was a kid.
You're a baby.
I was really young.
How old are you?
And so when I was cast, I was 21. And
how old are you
so 39. So yeah, over the course of this would have been my 17th season, because I missed 1 year.
and did
in
Romeo.
that span of
I remember that.
Yeah. And yeah, I feel like I really grew up. Everything, my whole career, my life, my son. I hope I bring some joy to people that come.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
know it seems so funny because I often play very kind of, I either play really, really brooding characters or really, really goofy characters. There's nothing in between.
That's interesting, because that's true in some respects, but also that your brooding characters end up having a lightness to them that is unexpected.
Yeah, that's what I hope for.
Like a fuller. I mean, for me, the way you shaped, from my perspective, is that you were the first person that I saw and thought, that's a really young talent. That's has all the makings of a great actor, and you're so young. But you gave me faith in the notion that someone that could grow up inside of this would be great. Because you had all the makings of raw talent and work ethic and a sense of humor. And it changed my perception of casting, honestly.
Oh, wow. Well,
I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that.
But that's true. Like, I can cite that conversation in my head about you. Because you were so young.
Yes.
You were like experimental. It was like an experiment with you.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I hope to bring. Regardless of what the character really is, I hope to bring vulnerability. Because I feel like we're all so vulnerable, and we're either trying to hide it or it's bursting through in some way. And I feel like that's who I am as a person.
Yeah.
And so I can't help but do that with the characters.
That's great.
So.
What do you wish for APT's future?
I want us to find ways to keep what we're doing relative. I mean, not relative, but have great purpose. With what's happening in our world, I want it to be showing on our stage. And that takes vulnerability through everything. And I hope the changes that are happening in the world happen on our stage, and I hope we stay, and I want classical theater to be relevant, because that's why it's lasted so long, and that takes change. It's funny, it takes change to stay relevant.
It's so interesting, right? Because
Yeah.
I often contemplate this a lot, right? Obviously in my position, and my thought is that these plays have bumped up against every point in time, right? For 400 years, sometimes thousands of years. And we have some idea about them being like, they are something, or they were something.
Right, yeah.
And instead, if they have, like water, have moved through time, they've moved through time bumping and rubbing against all those rocks, right?
Yeah.
And meeting those times, and then coming through with something that has something to offer. And our job, I think, is for us to say what's relevant about it. Like, what now does this play have to say?
Totally.
And if it's a great play, it'll have something to say.
Yeah.
I mean, I certainly felt that with Measure, which you were playing Angelo. I certainly felt it with Mackers. And I feel like our examination of those, we can't be afraid of the examination of those things, because that's the point of them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it is, we're all going to be afraid, and it's all going to be difficult to deal with change. Because that's a difficult thing to do. But embracing it and trying to move forward with this new relevance, I think, is both exciting and scary, and
we've
the
been
right
doing
way.
we've been doing it for a few years now. We've been stepping into relevance as a part of our conversation actively. I'd be terrified if we had just starting now.
Right.
That'd be terrifying to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you've been a big part of that kind of movement, that kind of availability to change. That's where I see your leadership a lot, is kind of a willingness, which is awesome.
Good.
Good. So APT is all about words, right? And like, we are really specific about how we say things and do things, right? So what's your favorite word?
Man. It's my favorite word.
Yep.
Probably son. S-O-N. My son.
I just hit my microphone.
Yeah. Or my son's name, honestly.
Which is?
Is Gus. Yeah. And I don't know. I look at him and there's so much, I mean, I have so much love for him.
Thank God.
Obviously, but yeah, there's no greater joy in my life. And if my son, or he's my son, kind of encompasses that for me. Yeah.
Your least favorite word?
Oh, God. I didn't know we were going to go all James Lipton on this.
We are. James Lipton all the way up the middle on this ending here.
My least favorite word. I'm thinking hard about this.
I love it. I'm glad you are.
Probably disappointed, like as in I'm disappointed in you. That's probably the one that.
It's interesting. Both of those have to do with fathers and sons.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah, because I want to be good, and I want to do good, and we actually say that to my son before he goes to bed. which is a John Adams thing, from Abigail Adams, I think, actually. It's just be good and do good. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. I don't like it when people are disappointed in me.
You don't like to be disappointed either.
Yeah, I don't either. Yeah.
That's a good word. Those are good choices. So my last question is, if you had one piece of advice to give yourself as a young person, as a child, what would it be? Knowing who you are now, what would the piece of advice you wish you could give yourself?
Be easier. Be easier on yourself. Yeah. Be easier on yourself. Because that's a hard one. That's a hard one for me. Something that I don't. As much as I work on it, because I do.
Of course, work at it. Work on that. Work on
work as hard as you can.
To be easy.
On being easy on yourself.
That's just exactly what I expect.
Yeah.
It's so interesting the things we don't know how to do, that other people seem to know how to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we just call it lazy.
Well, when you see somebody doing the thing that you always wanted to do for yourself, it's both like, oh my God, I never imagined that somebody could do that.
Right. Like when I found out people could sleep till 10 without feeling guilty, like literally as an adult, I found that out. Like I was like,
I still don't understand that one.
I'm like, if you're going to do it, you better feel bad about it. Isn't that weird? I mean, that's so weird. I'd give anything to sleep till 10.
I'm the same way.
I would give
like
anything.
we very much have this in common.
Yeah, we kind of have a thing where my hair is not like his right now,
but we usually dress the same, have the same haircut,
and I like the same things, and our energy is pretty similar.
It is.
And it's interesting.
But we also have I stayed up till 4 a.m. last night, and I woke up at 6 a.m.
Exactly. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what time I go to bed.
I could text you any time of night. I could probably catch you.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. Yeah. But there's nothing like, there's some pride in that, but then there's some kind of like, oh, I don't want to be that anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I would love to be able to sleep till 10.
Oh, God. Me too.
But it's never happened in my adult life. Whether I could take a sleeping pill. What is that?
I don't know.
Maybe when we finally figure it out, we will sleep till 10.
Maybe. Maybe we should work on it. Maybe we should work really hard.
Why don't we text each other about it?
I'll call you at 6 a.m. and be like, are you sleeping?
Oh my God. I love you, Marcus.
I love you too.
I really appreciate this. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Cheers. Can we do that? Cheers.
Dink.
Dink. Thank you.